As rightly said by Sarojini Naidu, we want deeper sincerity of motive, a greater courage in speech, and earnest in action. Today is a very auspicious day, that is the birth anniversary of Sarojini Naidu. So, with this, hello and good evening to one and all present here. This is me, Priyanka Verma, welcomes you in this 53rd session of Graduate Scholars Talk Series, which is a new initiative of Sakshay, a history society under the banner of Department of History and IQAC, that is Internal Assurance Cell of Shyam Lal College, Evening, University of Delhi. The GSTS, that is Graduate Scholars Talk Series, is a five members body with Saurabh Singh, Manvi Saraswat, Shubhi Singh, and Ajay Gupta, and Ms. Samriddhi Kandpal. There are no limits, there are only plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond them. Therefore, even after achieving a goal of 52 stock series, GSTS hasn't stopped but decided to go beyond imagination of success. GSTS that has started on 7th Feb 2021, and since then it had been carried out with sincerity and hard work, weekly on every Sunday without taking a week off. Its vision is not only to enhance speaking and presenting skills, but also to push students in the field of research analysis and to develop a new India having multidisciplinary thinking. Now it's time to introduce our chief invitee of the day, Ms. Medhavi Ma'am, who is currently teaching as an assistant professor in Delhi Metropolitan Education College of IP University. Ma'am is graduated in Business Economics from Gagi College, Delhi University. She is double post-graduated in Economics from Meerut, and she has done Mass Communication from Hisar. Ma'am has earned MPhil in Cinema Studios from JNU Delhi and recently submitted her PhD in Cinema Studies from JNU. Ma'am's research interests are Hindi cinemas, film genres, and film history. Ma'am has published many papers in some reputed journals. Ma'am has taught in DCAC and IHE of Delhi University, BVB and IIMC of Government of India. And as I already told you, Ma'am is currently teaching as assistant professor in Delhi Metropolitan Education College of IP University. Ma'am, please give your initial remarks and permission to start the program.
I'm very obliged. I feel very obliged to be a part of this particular program, and I'm looking forward to see what is there. And I want to hear the conversation. I want to be a part of this conversation, and I'm very excited for the same. So I'm really looking forward, and I want to wish all the best to all the presenters here, to the speaker, and all the students who are participating. It's a great initiative, and I am very happy to be a part of this. All the best to everybody.
Thanks a lot, ma'am, and we'll get back to you very soon just after the talk of Miss
Surely.
Kashish. So now it's time for Miss Kashish, who is in third year pursuing political science honor. Miss Kashish, over to you and just present your topic and research you have done over your topic, parallel cinema, a genre from Multiplex to Netflix. Over to you, Miss Kashish.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. Okay. Quote: It is easier to keep track of changing trends and social behavior through films because as they are traveling from one decade to another, the language of this visual media is constantly reinventing itself and rebelling in new forms and faces. Unquote, Anonymous. A very warm good evening to all present here. I'm Kashish Singh, student of BA Honours Political Science third year from Shyam Lal College Evening. और अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन स्टार्ट करने से पहले लेट्स जस्ट रिकॉल जो हमने मेरी पिछली बार के प्रेजेंटेशन से जाना था, जिसका टॉपिक था पैरेलल सिनेमा, अ जॉनरा ऑफ टेस्ट, जहां पर हमने इस सिनेमा के ओरिजिन से स्टार्ट किया था विद सबकारी पाश मूवी एंड इप्टा आर्ट हाउस मूवमेंट. फर्दर मैंने गोल्डन 50s एंड स्विंगिंग 60s एरा का भी जिक्र किया था. फिर हमने इस सिनेमा के पीक पॉइंट की कुछ लाजवाब फिल्मों के बारे में जाना था और आखिर में 90s के आने तक कैसे सिनेमा का डिक्लाइन हो गया था ड्यू टू ग्लोबलाइजेशन एंड मेनी अदर रीजन, इस पर भी चर्चा की थी. सो दिस वाज अ क्विक फ्लैशबैक जस्ट टू रिकैप्सुलेट द प्रायर नॉलेज वी हैव इन ऑर्डर टू कंटिन्यू स्मूथली इन द प्रेजेंटेशन. आज का जो टॉपिक है वो है पैरेलल सिनेमा, अ जॉनरा फ्रॉम मल्टीप्लेक्स टू नेटफ्लिक्स. और उसे स्टार्ट करने से पहले हम इस टॉपिक के ऑब्जेक्टिव्स को देख लेते हैं. तो सबसे पहले हम इस प्रेजेंटेशन में यह जानेंगे कि कैसे हमारे इस पैरेलल सिनेमा को 21st सेंचुरी में एक नया नाम दे दिया गया है जो कि है न्यू इंडीज, एंड हाउ इज इट डिफरेंट फ्रॉम प्रायर पैरेलल सिनेमा. फिर हम इसके कुछ यूनिक और रेवोल्यूशनरी प्लॉट्स और कंटेंट्स की बात विस्तार में करेंगे. आगे बढ़ते हुए हम ये भी जानेंगे कि आखिर ये सिनेमा सेंसरशिप इश्यूज और हाल ही में किए गए उनमें बदलावों को कैसे डील करता है। और फाइनली लास्ट में हम मल्टीप्लेक्स से नेटफ्लिक्स तक के इस सफर में इस सिनेमा को किन किन एंटिटी से फंडिंग के लिए मदद मिलती है यह भी जानेंगे। तो फिर शुरू करते हैं बिना कुछ देरी करे। हाल ही के गुजरे हुए दशकों में हमने यह देखा है that there is a growing number of not so popular films that are made for commercial release and are also challenging the convention of mainstream genre. These films are made both within and outside the prevailing studio system of Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, and Northeast. And due to these films' hybrid understanding, they are becoming increasingly appealing to the global aspiration of India's urban multiplex generation. So we can say that down the line since 2010, there is a major transformation that has been taken place in the Indian cinema. लेकिन अब हमारे मन में यह सवाल उठता है कि आखिर ये फिल्में क्या हैं और अब क्यों उभर के आ रही हैं? क्या ये पैलेस सिनेमा का ही एक कॉन्टिन्यूएशन है जिसके बारे में हमने अपने पिछले प्रेजेंटेशन में जाना था, या फिर ये उससे भी और कुछ अधिक है? वास्तव में यदि हम पैरेलल और पॉपुलर सिनेमा में एक एनालिसिस करते हैं तो हम पाएंगे कि पॉपुलर सिनेमा में एक बहुत यूनिक टाइप का मेटा हेजेमोनिक फीचर है जिसके कारण वो कभी खुशी कभी गम, ओम शांति ओम, धूम 3 और हाल ही में रिलीज पुष्पा जैसी अनगिनत फिल्मों के माध्यम से हमेशा फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में अपना सामान्य प्रभुत्व जमाने में सक्षम होता है और ये दशकों से होता चला आ रहा है। लेकिन वहीं दूसरी ओर पैरेलल सिनेमा अपने जन्म के बाद से ही अपने एग्जिस्टेंस के लिए बहुत स्ट्रगल कर रहा है जिसके कारण अक्सर उसे डूबते हुए भी देखा गया है। लेकिन इस बार कहानी कुछ और है because there has been a massive change that has taken place in the Indian cinema due to the arrival of the stream of genuinely diverse independent films which has shifted the goalpost. और इसी प्रकार के पैलेस सिनेमा का जिक्र मिस्टर अश्विन इमानुएल देव सुंदरम ने अपने मोनोग्राफ इंडियन इंडीज अ गाइड टू इंडिपेंडेंट न्यू इंडियन सिनेमा में न्यू इंडीज के नाम से किया है, जिसमें कहा गया है कि न्यू इंडीज एक ऐसी ग्लोबल हाइब्रिड फिल्म फॉर्म है जो भारत के ग्लोबलाइजिंग प्रेजेंट और ट्रेडिशनल पास्ट के मिड पाथ और मेन स्ट्रीम बॉलीवुड की छाया से निकलकर उभर रहा है। तो बेसिकली न्यू इंडीज पैलेस सिनेमा का ही एक बहुत ट्रांसफॉर्म और मिक्स्ड वर्जन है जो कि 2010 के बाद से एक बहुत प्रोमिनेंट इंडिपेंडेंट फिल्म के रूप में उभरता हुआ आ रहा है, क्योंकि इससे पहले इंडिपेंडेंट फिल्मों को बॉलीवुड के अनडिस्प्यूटेड सिनेमैटिक डोमिनेंस के सामने एक स्ट्रॉन्ग कॉम्पिटिटर के रूप में नहीं देखा जाता था। लेकिन ये प्रेजुडिसेस 2010 में देवडी, पीपली लाइव, उड़ान, एलएसटी, धोबी घाट और आईएम जैसी ऑथेंटिक इंडी फिल्मों के रिलीज के साथ टूट गए, जिसने इंडिपेंडेंट फिल्मों को मेनस्ट्रीम सिनेमा की फिल्म के सामने न केवल एक कॉन्क्रीट कॉम्पिटिटर के रूप में स्टैब्लिश किया, बल्कि इट मार्क्ड द बिगिनिंग ऑफ न्यू काइंड ऑफ पैरेलल सिनेमा बाय द नेम ऑफ न्यू इंडीज। और इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ये टर्म इंडी एक बहुत ही मेलिएबल टर्म या फिर आप कह सकते हैं बहुत ही लचीला टर्म है जो केवल उपयोग करने के लिए यूज किया गया है। सो इट्स यूसेज कैन बी यूज्ड इन मल्टीपल वर्सेटाइल एंड फ्लेक्सिबल वे। And this term has been used in several news articles, academic scholarships, and websites such as IndiaIndependentFilm.com, Festival Circuit website, and many more. One important point to note here is that these new indies do not reflect the binary arrangement of Bollywood versus independent Indian cinema, because they are very hybrid, very flexible, and adaptable that it becomes very difficult to align it into any one of the predicted heading. आगे बढ़ते हुए यदि हम आज के न्यू इंडीज और पहले के पैरेलल सिनेमा को कंपेयर करेंगे तो हम पाएंगे कि आज के न्यू इंडीज की 3 ऐसे खास फीचर हैं which were not present in the prior parallel cinema, and these are unique to new indies only. And these 3 major traits are hybridity, locality, and linguistic diversity. First among the 3 is hybridity. The basic meaning of the word hybridity is the process in which discrete social structures that existed in separate ways combine to generate new structure. In the same way, the new indies have also tapped certain elements from India's postmodern condition of consumerism, commodification, technologization, urbanization, and widening socioeconomic disparities, bringing them together into experimental form of movies such as Ship of Theseus, Island City, Tufan will aid down of more recent. Also, the presence of digital media in form of gaming, webcam, surveillance cameras, social media, music videos, and smartphones are also deployed by the new indies to enhance the narrative in their films such as LST, Aligarh, Masan, Kallanotam, Buddha Mob, Mehsampur, and many others. The other aspect of hybridity of new indies is the feature of compilation of short story known as anthology and multiple intersecting story called hyperlink. Anthology is a single film consisting of several short stories, whereas hyperlink is a single film which consists of multiple stories but with an interlink at the end, which are set at the backdrop of cosmopolitan cities and smaller towns. For example, Masan, Past is Present, Ship of Thesis, Three Obsessions, Lipstick Under My Burqa, Super Deluxe, Katha at the Rate 8, and recent Netflix anthology Ajeeb Dastan. इसके अलावा 2010 के बाद से ही ड्यू टू मार्केट ड्रिवन इकोनॉमी and shortage for funding for films with alternative content, several directors of these films also aligned with mainstream Bollywood-oriented production and distribution houses such as Eros International, Yashraj Film, Ajay Devgan Film, and many more for funding and distribution. Further, a demonstration of hybridity in the new indie films have been showcased by movies like People Life, Masan, Sairat, and Heather that have strategically included the song sequence in the narrative in a more context-driven approach. The another shape-shifting hybridity of the new indies is their ability to blend different styles to critique the grand narrative of traditional morals and political power, which have transformed into highly successful web series such as Secret Games, Family Man, Patal Lok, Tandav, and Bombay Begums more recently. These online series are backed by actors, producers, directors who are attached to the new wave of indies since 2010, such as Anurag Kashyap, Avinash Arun, Vikramaditya Motwani, Alankrita Srivastava, Radhika Apte, Tanishta Chatterjee, Richa Chadha, Sanjay Mishra, Tilotma Shome, Nawazuddin Siddiqui, Rajkumar Rao, Ratna Shah Pathak, and many more. Lastly, one of the latest hybrid quality of indies is the casting mechanism, which includes both non-professional and mainstream stars as well, which is often to gain wider audiences, optimize publicity, and enhance exhibition opportunities. For example, Bollywood star Shahid Kapoor was cast as a protagonist in Heather, which was an adaptation of Shakespeare's Hamlet. Then once again, he and Alia Bhatt featured at Uttar Punjab, a controversial film about the drug abuse crisis among young people in Punjab. Then Amir Khan in Dhobi Ghat, Vidya Balan in Kahani and Sherni, Amitabh Bachchan in Pink, and Ayushmann Khurrana in Article 15 are some of the notable examples. The second trait of these new indies is locality, which means basically the integration between global and local. When any global idea or concepts are adapted to fit the customs and preferences of a local area, it is known as locality. While Bollywood at one hand tends to have a very culturally cliche, the new indies tend to be perceived as a global because they blend the global world cinema's aesthetic in terms of form and style they use in their movies, along with local languages in content that is rooted in Indian context. Therefore, we can say that local meets global on several levels in the new indie films, with a pan-global inclusion of influences ranging from auteurs like Akira Kurosawa to Satyajit Ray, making phenomenal movies like The Ship of Thesis and Dear Molly. The third and the last trait of these new indies is linguistic diversity. So after 2010, the new indies were emerging from across the geographical length and breadth of the nation, due to which a plethora of politically and socio-culturally critical films in Marathi, Tamil, Bengali, Assamese, Malayalam, Kannada, and several other regional languages have traveled out from their respective state borders and reached under the broader banner of nationally and internationally visible new independent films. Further, where on one hand, the Bollywood focuses on a very Hindi-dominated languages movies, the new Indies' unique characteristic is their multilingualism. फॉर एग्जाम्पल पीपी लाइफ की डायरेक्टर अनुषा रिजवी, जिन्होंने न्यू इंडी फिल्म की नींव रखी थी, कहती हैं कि उनका मेन एम फिल्म बनाने के दौरान यह था कि किसी तरीके से शी कुड डिसेंट्रलाइज द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ मुंबई, और बहुत हद तक वो ऐसा करने में सक्सेसफुल हुई थी क्योंकि उन्होंने अपनी फिल्म का सारा सेटअप मध्य प्रदेश के पीपली नाम के एक विलेज में रखा था। और इसी डायरेक्शन में आगे अनुराग कश्यप ने भी अपनी हिंसक कोल माफिया मूवी गैंग्स ऑफ वासेपुर का पूरा सेटअप झारखंड के धानबाद नामक विलेज में रखा था। और ये तीन फीचर ऐसे हैं दैट मेक द न्यू इंडीज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम पैरेलल सिनेमा, जो हमने 70s और 80s के डिस्कस किए थे. But still the two could be considered as a contemporary cinematic cousins of each other. या फिर हम ऐसा भी कह सकते हैं that the new indies are the postmodern reincarnation of the forebearers from parallel cinema movement. Because in spite of the differences, one unifying feature between the new indies and the parallel cinema is their portrayal of socially conscious and politically interrogative storylines that address the pertinent issues of the day. अब प्रेजेंटेशन में आगे बढ़ते हुए न्यू इंडीज के डाइवर्स कंटेंट और प्लॉट लाइंस को बॉलीवुड से कंपेयर करते हुए डिस्कस करेंगे, जिसमें सबसे पहला थीम है एलजीबीटीक्यू लिबरेशन. हम सब जानते हैं कि 6 सितंबर 2018 के हिस्टोरिकल जजमेंट में इंडियन सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आर्टिकल 377 को रिमूव कर दिया था. इस डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी लॉ को एब्रोगेट करने से इंडिया में एलजीबीटी के अधिकारों के लिए लंबे समय से चली आ रही डिमांड का एक पॉजिटिव रिस्पॉन्स मिला. And the new indies had worked significantly to this aspect with the stories pertaining to the queer section of the society who were neglected by the mainstream cinema. One of the interesting things that I got to know while preparing for the presentation was that the first queer on-screen identity was made back in 1971 as Badnaam Basti by Prem Kapoor, which was the first Indian film to represent a homosexual relationship and was rediscovered in the Berlin Film Archive in 2020 in the midst of global COVID-19 pandemic. Further, Canadian filmmaker Deepa Mehta की 1996 controversial film Fire that casted Shabana Azmi and Nandita Das as sisters-in-law who were trapped in their loveless hetero marriages, eventually finding love in each other, questioned the dominant framework of society. और इस फिल्म का हिंदुत्व बैंड्स के द्वारा बहुत विरोध किया गया था. Finally, the new indies' role in raising awareness to overturn Section 377 with strapline #ComeOutAndQuestion was accompanied by Hansal Mehta's Aligarh of 2016 that finally achieved its success with the removal of this law in 2018. The second indie film content emphasizes on F-rated films. जब भी हम females के on-screen representation की बात करते हैं, तो Bollywood is often convicted as the one belittling women by consigning them to sex objects in item numbers or as beautiful love interest of the hero. और ऐसे representation से it not only downgrades female character to passive role, but that only demands beauty labor instead of a holistic disposition of them. In contrast, the new indies are both bulwark for strong female roles, both behind and in front of the camera. And here comes the concept of F rating that relates to female-centric films that are directed, written, and performed by women. And this term was coined by Holly Tarkoni, a creative director of Bath Film Festival. And since 2010, the new indie has served as a springboard for several first-time female filmmakers such as Anusha Rizvi's Peepli Live, Kiran Rao's Dhobi Ghat, which has set a trail for further films like Leena Yadav's Parched, India's first all-female muddy road movie, Angry Indian Goddesses, supernatural thriller Bulbul by Anvita Dutt, and finally Lipstick Under My Burqa, which is arguably one of the most impactful feminist new independent Indian film that generated debate and discussion. Then, the new indies has also explored the Kashmir landscape very beautifully. We all know that conflict-ridden Himalayan Kashmir region has long been a territorial bone of contention between India and Pakistan. We all know that. But Bollywood has often showed a very jingoistic narrative of the region and its people. In contrast, if you watch the new indie like Amir Bashir's Harud, Heather directed by Vishal Bharadwaj, Rahat Kazmi's black comedy Side A and Side B, Ashwin Kumar's fiction feature No Fathers in Kashmir, and Ejaz Ahmed's Hamid, you will find that they all have formulated a more streamlined interpretation of Kashmiri politics and from a kaleidoscope of locally specific perspective. If I be more particular, you will find that movie Heather, Harud, and Hamid interrogate an authoritarian legislation act, AFSPA, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, which gives Indian Armed Forces extreme power to carry out search and arrest operations without a warrant in the civilian areas of disturbed region. AFSPA and Kashmir status was very well portrayed in a very disguised connotation in the scenes from movie Heather. The new indies also challenge the caste system, which is an issue particular to India, with lowest caste often consigned to occupation that is considered ritually unclean, such as manual scavenging, sweeping roads, cleaning toilets and drains, as represented in the indie movies like Gutter Boy or burning bodies at cremation pyre as portrayed in Masan. Bollywood, on the other hand, largely shows an upper caste Brahmin vision of India as Aditya Menon observes that Bollywood's new period drama portrays supremacy of Brahmins and other upper castes like Rajputs, Marathas in the big budget blockbusters such as Padmavat, Bajirao Mastani, Panipat, and Tanaji that are designed to degenerate the Mughal period and position Muslim rulers as villainous foreign occupiers and upper caste as the saviors. You all know that we have the right to freedom under Article 19 of the Constitution, which is for our benefit. But this right also is not at the expense of others. So it's not an absolute right. It has several restrictions. Similarly, the Indian cinema has a body upon it to regulate its visual content, that is the Central Board of Film Certification, which is a statutory body presiding authority for the matters relating to regulation of film content in India. No film is eligible for public distribution or screening unless it receives certification by CBFC. It is a very hierarchical structure of advisory panels, which initially used to have the Film Certification Appellate Tribunal known as FCAT, which was abolished by ruling government in 2021. This panel is considered to be was considered to be a very liberal panel involving of retired High Court judges and senior film industry figures that served as a last recourse for filmmakers to make an appeal for the assigned certification if they were not satisfied with the certification. Also, the certification model that is used by the CBFC has often been questioned for its ambiguity and no age specificity that includes the following categories in the slide, such as the UA certificate, A certificate, and S certificate. Then recently, the Cinematograph Amendment Bill on 18 June 2021 amended the Early Cinematograph Act of 1952 by the ruling government that ordered the re-examination of the films that were already certified for the exhibition by CBFC and were released in the public domain. This is an extreme measure taken by the state to assume absolute power as a super censor board for filmmaking. Further, they have also tried to initiate active steps to regulate the digital media and video streaming platform content through imposition of IT Rule 2021 by expanding the ambit of IT Rule and possessing an adverse effect for the new indie filmmakers. Therefore, more or less over the time, censorship has been a close yet not required companion of new wave of independent Indian cinema. And in 2016, the Shyam Lal Committee had very well defined that CBFC is not there to act as a moral compass by deciding what constitutes glorification and what not, but rather should largely only be there to decide who and what category of audiences can watch depiction of a particular theme, story, scene, etc. As Carrie Sani has rightly said, and I quote, "Art is all about yourself. First and foremost, we are artists and we are all filmmakers. In the 2 decades of rapid transformation in funding of the filmmaking, New Indies is seen with News Indies was initially dependent on National Film Development Corporation and International Film Festival for funding. But with the decline of funding for these films within India and foreign, it became more difficult for the filmmakers who wanted to make more of such content. But the New Indies here got the support of funding by four major channels for filmmaking since 2010. And first among them are the multiplexes. The New Indies largely rely on multiplexes, which are the exhibition of multiplexes that are integrated into the shopping complexes, which were the effect of nation's free market liberalization. So these multi-screen venues had replaced the traditional single-screen cinema halls by the previous cinema chain, which was established in 1995. During its early stage, multiplexes gave a new hope as a platform to showcase the lower-budget alternative films in a Bollywood-dominated terrain. But this was not the case, as gradually they also started to favor the profit-driven commercial films. And in effect, Bollywood's monopoly extended to the multiplex sector as well. And this was evident from instances like the new indie movies that were screened in the weekdays and afternoon timings. And also the pricing of these new indie movies tickets were too high, which was not within the reach of low-income population and particularly students. So slowly, multiplex that was seen as a savior for the new indies no more remained a helping hand. So they had to move to another option for funding, and this was the concept of crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a financial help gathered from potential audiences to support the independent film production and has been a helpful funding option for several new wave indie filmmakers. A notable example is that director Onir, who adopted global crowdfunding for his film I Am of 2000, which was facilitated by 400 donors across 45 countries. But this is not a new concept, because author Shyam Lal film Manthan of 1976 also got financial participation of 5 lakh dairy farmers in Gujarat who contributed a portion of the dairy earning to become co-producers of the film. But crowdfunding mechanism does not work in the same way as it did for other two films we had just talked about. And this led to the establishment of autonomous indie-focused production companies such as erstwhile Phantom Film, owned collaboratively by Anurag Kashyap and many indie filmmakers, and several other independent production houses for new indie films. But finally, the maximum help for new indies for funding came through web streaming services Netflix and Amazon Prime Video, with their entry into the Indian market in 2016 that has proved a game changer for them indeed. They have not only provided a production investment for original films and web series, but have also opened a global exhibition window for several low-budget indies films that were made from 2010 onward, such as Peeply Live, Dhobi Ghat, Lunchbox, that are available alongside the newer indies releases such as Anarkali of Ara, Bulbul, Sherni, etc. And according to Times of India report, India's OTT video market is forecasted to grow from $1.5 billion in 2021 to $12.5 billion in 2030, with expansion expected to be massive. Along with Netflix and Amazon, there are 40 local, national, and international streaming platforms that are available in India, such as Z5, Sony Live, Voot, Eros, Art Balaji, etc., that are providing a low subscription price than the former in this industry. And this local streaming platform gives space to those films that are not able to afford screening on Netflix and Amazon. And with the global COVID-19 pandemic in 2021, these over-the-top platform or OTT have emerged as a dominant player in the Indian market and have very well utilized the legislative loophole that excluded internet-based media in India from state regulation. And all this has worked in favor of the new indies making. At the end, I would just like to say कि विकास के इस दशक में न्यू इंडीज को इंडियन सिनेमा के फ्यूचर के रूप में देखना गलत नहीं होगा, विशेष रूप से जिस तरीके से वे अपनी इनोवेटिव अंदाज में इंडिया के मेजॉरिटेरियन, मोनोलिंगुअल, मोनो रिलीजियस और पेट्रियार्की के इस ग्रैंड नैरेटिव को हर बार अपनी खूबसूरत फिल्मों के द्वारा न केवल क्वेश्चन करते हैं बट रिजेक्ट भी करते हैं, जहां पर वे हाइब्रिडिटी और मल्टीलिंग्विज्म से हर व्यूअर को अपने साथ जोड़ रहा है और लोकैलिटी के थ्रू अपनी लोकल रिचनेस को साथ लेते हुए ऑडियंस को एक ग्लोबल सिनेमा मेथड का एक्सपीरियंस भी दे रहा है. So we can say that the new indies are holding its past strong, walking with its presence proudly and heading towards a bright future because they have been successfully shifting the audience perception and acceptance towards the new vocabulary of filmmaking in India. With that, I will give a pause to myself. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kashish. It is a really great session, I have to say, and genuinely it was a really great depiction of data, and through the movie clips you show, really amazing. So it's now the time for you to solve some queries. The first question is from Mr. Ajay Gupta. Mr. Ajay Gupta, if you could unmute yourself and just ask your query, please.
Okay, Kashish, well, it was great presentation. So my question is that like several mainstream stars like SRK, Amir or Salman, they haven't touched any social issues. So do you think that the money making in the film industry has always been greater than the raising some social issues or something else?
See, at the end of the day, film is all about money. There's a lot of amount of money that is invested in movie making. And if you're talking about actors like Shah Rukh Khan or Salman Khan or Amir Khan has touched upon in several movies about the social issues. If you see Three Idiots, so Bollywood movies are also trying to touch upon the social issues. And when you talk about money, of course, the movie filmmaking is needs a huge amount of money. So, of course, at the end of the day, you have to make money.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
I would like to add here, Ajay, sir, whoever it is, one of the most important films by Shah Rukh Khan addressing a social issue is Swades, and which establishes a lot in itself through that one film, because that has also addressed to a very important social issue being farmers and our extreme the need for our extreme attention towards this issue of farmers. So I think Shah Rukh Khan used to address such social issue in his film. Let's hope so that he makes such and becomes a part of such films more often now.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for adding that. I think Mr. Ajay have gotten his answer. So the next question is from Ms. Samriddhi, and she's asking, what are your views regarding the changes in themes and genres over the years in Indian cinema? Ms. Kashish.
Could you repeat the question? Your voice is breaking.
Yes. She's asking, what are your views
Priyanka, a
regarding?
little bit louder.
Okay, sir. What are your views regarding the changes in themes and genres over the years in Indian cinema?
Okay, so just you mean the contents that are changing over the time?
Yes, she's asking
See,
about the
actually, there is a
changes
very
in.
thin difference between reflection and influence. So, what society reflects is given in through the films, and what films give that is influenced by the people who watch it. So, as the time is growing, the movie is going according to the the changes in the society. Because if you see the evolution of for example, take the example of the villains, how the villains have transformed over the years. Initially we had the villains as the zamindars, then they had changed. With the coming of globalization, the villains have transformed, have gone to, has become the outsiders. So slowly with the changes in the society, there is a transformation that is taking place in the contents of the movies, also in the cinema also.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kashish. So the next question is from Ms. Shubhi Singh. Ms. Shubhi, if you could unmute yourself and ask your question directly.
Thank you, Miss Priyanka. First of all, you gave an excellent talk, Miss Cassis. My question is that how do you evaluate OTT platform? What is your opinion about OTT platforms?
I believe that since at present there is only talk to put certain regulation on OTT platform. I believe that sometimes OTT kinds of gets expands to through its content. So sometimes it becomes very difficult to handle the type of content that it gives, and particularly children below the appropriate age to watch that kind of content, that is a little harmful. So I believe that OTT needs a self regulation, not I would not say a censorship, but a certain kind of you can say a self regulation within its body, such that there should be a parental regulation on these OTT platforms, such that children within a specific age are not have the parental guidance over them to watch certain element. So that is one thing that is very important, because children are very easy to be exposed to certain things which are not appropriate to watch at that age. So it's very, that is my view, that there needs to be of course there has to be a creative, there is a creative freedom, but still there has to be certain kind of self regulation, not censorship but regulation on the OTT platforms.
Thank you, Ms. Kashish. You handled the question answer round very well. Thank you. Now, again, I would like to invite our guest of honor, Ms. Medhavi ma'am, to give her insights, views, and opinions over the topic, talk, and event. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Priyanka. Kashish, it was an amazing presentation. I am so overwhelmed to see this presentation because you are in your graduation and spoke so well. You had researched it so well. I'm very, very, very impressed. And I wanted to add on to a lot of things that you spoke about. Firstly, that there are a lot, like what you were talking about regulation. It is required, but it's very silently being regulated already. There are many films which have their scenes being cut already, and you will not realize it until you have seen those films earlier. For example, films which have extreme violence or sensitive scenes, they're already being cut. For example, I was just watching this old film of Madhuri Dixit called Anjam, and it has some violent scenes, majorly violence. And if I watch it on YouTube, I see the full film. But when I watched it on, I think Z5 or some other OTT platforms, many scenes were cut. So some films are being taken care of, but yes, most of the films are not. But that's the whole point of releasing a film on an OTT platform. There is no political interference, but yes, there should be a certain level of regulation for children. And I think there is already, whenever you switch on a particular OTT platform, they ask you which user is using it, if it is you or if it is a child, if it is whoever. So I think it's also the duty of the parents or whoever is actually there to look after them. But yes, there should be some sort of regulation. Secondly, you spoke about such good things like hybridity and locality and linguistic diversity. They were very, very, very relevant points, and you touched almost everything, and it was great. But there's one more thing that I wanted to add on, that because of these OTT platforms, piracy has almost been killed. Like there is minimum piracy right now. People have almost stopped downloading films. Like some still do, who like to maintain an archive, but most of the people have stopped because now they have this thing in their mind that, okay, fine, if I don't want to watch this film at the theater, if like now there are so many restrictions, very rarely we are getting the permission to use theaters for viewing films. But even if there's a particular film at the theater and some person is not able to watch a film or is not getting time or doesn't want to spend money, so they have that kind of patience to wait for that film to come to a OTT platform to watch it in the best quality. So I have also written a particular, a research paper on how this has shifted and how it is finally minimizing piracy. So it's one more thing which is good about OTT platform, that it has really made films earn the true credit and true finance, true commercial success through these platforms. And one last point that I have understood, like while I was researching from the same top, I was very happy when I was invited for this session because I had worked on this before. So I wanted to add this one more point, that when I met a few people who actually basically assign screens to a particular multiplex, like the owner of Inox and PVR and all these multiplex people. So they revealed this fact that all we care about is money, like Kashish was stressing on, that money is the thing that matters. So they said that if a film which is an indie film or an art film, it does not do well on the first day, we give them early morning slots, or we quietly just remove them from our screens gradually. And अगर किक रिलीज हुई है सलमान खान की, तो हम कोशिश करते हैं कि हम 6 के 6 शो और 6 के 6 स्क्रीन सिर्फ किक को दे दें, बिकॉज हमको पता है सब उसको देखने जाएंगे। लेकिन हाँ, मसान देखने वाले लोग इतने नहीं होंगे, मसान जिनको देखनी होगी वो अर्ली मॉर्निंग आ जाएंगे। सो इट हैपेंड विद मी अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स कि न्यूज़पेपर में या बुक माई शो में मुझे दिख रहा है कि मसान इज देयर एंड इट इज अवेलेबल एट अ 5 PM शो, बट व्हेन आई रीच देयर इट इज नॉट। वहां पे किक लगी हुई है या वहां पर सुल्तान लगी हुई है, और मे बी सम बिग सुपरस्टार्स film. So now, because of all these OTT platforms, they are getting equal benefit of providing themselves as an artist, as a filmmaker, in the true sense. So that's also a good point about OTT platforms. Rest, the presentation was amazing, it was very informative, and I really want to congratulate you because you are doing something that we learned at a very later stage. And thank you so much for talking about all these things. Congratulations, Kashish, it was an amazing session. Thank you.
And Dr.
Thank you so
Medhavi,
much.
one interruption from my side. So,
Yes,
what's your
sir.
gift to Kashish? One paper with you. She's going to assist one paper with you. A
Sure,
student. Huh?
sure, sir, sure. Not just Kashish, anybody, whoever wants to write a paper, whoever is interested to write a paper on films or anything related to maybe, and actually any subject if you want to, I can at least guide you for basic research. But if it is about films or media, mass communication, journalism, I will be more helpful in that case. But at least the basics of research, I can help anybody. So
And
I would
thank you,
be
Dr.
glad if
Medhavi. And what
anybody wants
about
to
this?
listen.
What about this stage GSTS Graduates Scholar Talk Series? We just completed 1 year. For
Okay,
few
sir.
words, not for me because I'm working from last 20 years, but for my students.
Okay. So I'm happy to help. If in any way I can contribute, I will be always available. So
Thank
I
you.
would
Thank you.
be glad to be a part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for inviting.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks a lot for your words, suggestions, and recommendations to the content. They are highly appreciating and inviting, and I hope everybody here would have learned something interesting. Thanks for coming, ma'am, and gracing the talk with your presence. Thanks a lot, ma'am. So, as history lovers, we believe in continuity, that is a key. So, the speaker of the next Sunday, Ms. Prachi, will be addressing GSTS 54 in a series. But due to some unavoidable reasons, she couldn't join us. So, here is a little clip of her that I would like Ms. Archana Bharti to present. Please, Ms. Archana Bharti.
Hello everyone, this is Prachi pursuing BA Honours in Political Science, second year student from SCTB Khalsa College, Delhi University. Next Sunday, I'll be presenting a talk show on the topic India's rising population, blessing in disguise. Under this umbrella topic, I'll be covering some broad objectives which are as follows. First, I will be talking about the current India's rising population, facts and figures about it, and as to why this population has been increasing since independence, and some reasons and factors about it. Next, I would be introducing you all through the topics of the demographic transition and the demographic dividend as to how the India's rising population can be served as an instrument of economic growth, and also talking about the emerging and the evolving age structure from 1950s to 2021. Third, I would be taking you all through the sectors which would help in recovering this demographic dividend of India. These sectors are education, health, skill development, and gender sensitization. I would be talking the challenges ahead in all these four sectors as to how the demographic dividend can be achieved and what should be done. Fourth, very interestingly, I would be providing you to the first-hand information collected through a survey done by me through the Google Forms on this topic. All the responses of the young age population, which is between 15 years to at least 32 years, which is our India's working age population, I'll be accepting all the responses from those respondents, and I'll be providing the first-hand information as to what should be done to realize the demographic dividend of India, and what are the challenges ahead, and what is the optimism on the behalf of the India's population. Lastly, I would be talking about some of the good recommendations which as to what needs to be done to realize this dividend so that the higher authorities could hear us and do some required actions. And I invite you all to my talk on next Sunday. And to grace my talk, please do come and let's gain some fruitful knowledge about India's population. Thank you.
Great. So kindly join us next Sunday also and grace the talk with your presence. Okay, so now today we are going to announce the speaker of the month. Yes, here are the 4 speakers we had in January. Number 1, Mr. Ishant Sharma, whose topic was Let's Listen to the Stone Speaks. Number 2, Ms. Swati Upadhyaya, with the topic Wars and Strategies in Ancient and Medieval India. Number 3, Ms. Janvi Singh, who spoke upon the food habits in ancient India. And number 4, Ms. Archana Bharti, whose topic was Are We Alone? A presentation on extraterrestrial life. So the speaker of the month of January is Ms. Janvi. Congratulations to you, Ms. Janvi, and we request you to please come and speak for a minute or so on your experience. Please, Ms. Janvi.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone present here, and thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank my teacher, Dr. Krishna, for being a guiding light towards GSTS. And I believe GSTS came at a time when students were facing so much critical things like you need a will to study, even if it's your home, and you don't need to go to a college or school. So these were the critical things we were facing, and especially the factor of experiential learning was disappearing so much. खासकर अगर आप एक humanities background से हैं तो you guys will feel that people are saying stupid things like why would you need practical knowledge? तुम्हारा तो theoretical subject है, practicality की क्या जरूरत है तुमको? तो फिर every sane person would know that every discipline needs analytical thinking. और हम लोगों को मिलती है जब हम दूसरे का analytical perspective जानते हैं, तो उस चीज की बहुत कमी थी. I feel GSTS fulfilled it and still is doing it. Baki, I don't think I need to talk about the learning aspect which GSTS is providing because it's immense. देखा जाए तो success कहाँ live करती है? It is in the functioning, the way you guys function. It is huge. जिस तरह से आप लोग माहौल क्रिएट करते हैं, जिस तरह का सिनेरियो आप लोग क्रिएट करते हैं एक स्टूडेंट के लिए, इतना ज्यादा सिस्टमैटिक है, इतना ज्यादा ऑर्गेनाइज्ड है, इतना फॉर्मल है. Still, you know, we end up having a connection with that Sunday 5 p.m. with the notifications popping before a talk. So this is the power of GSTS, I feel. और देखा जाए तो अगर सीख सब लेते हैं, क्योंकि वही अगर आप सुनोगे तो समझोगे तो सीखोगे, लेकिन जो सॉफ्ट स्किल्स था वो बहुत ज्यादा डिप्राइव्ड हो गया था. लेकिन if you see GSTS, these guys are giving or dedicating a whole week for a student, whole week or sometimes even more days for a student, for making them believe that they can, you know, do it. And after all, society is all about this. Talking about my talk, I feel maybe I could have given something more. I could have given I could have been 100%, but I, in the end, respect my final decisions, final choices I made at that 11th hour, and all the result which came out. And now I'm here to present my token of gratitude and admiration towards GSTS for appreciating those decisions. Or आखिर में, I could only say that if anyone of you out there is thinking to participate but is rather hesitant due to lack of confidence or anything, then my friend, I can only say that don't, because GSTS is a platform which will help you believe that endings are not hollow. Endings are not at all hollow. And even though each one of you might not discover confidence in the end, but then everyone will discover or come across something new. And that something means a lot. That something means a lot. Because it's only the small things which matters, like चटनी के बिना समोसा, मक्खन के बिना साग, cake without cherry on top, और थोड़े से extra pounds के बिना आप. Life would be incomplete. So again, thank you GSTS for letting me be a part of your stage, and a hearty good luck for your future endeavors. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Danvi. You were just way
Priyanka,
too
10
perfect.
seconds more. Sorry for interruption. And
Yes.
we are not including GSTS members for this whole scenario. That means Miss Archana Bharti was a GSTS member or Sakshi member. So she or he is not part of this whole Speaker of the Month. So congrats, Janvi, for coming and giving us a very good perspective about GSTS and my students. Thank you, Janvi. All the best.